Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series number 85 Arcee. And this is Arcee as we saw her from the 2018 Bumblebee movie. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at that packaging. And we'll start right up here at the top. You have Transformers Bumblebee. I do have a little bit of damage on my box, unfortunately. That is how I bought it. So that's kind of a bummer, but oh well. And then down here you have that fantastic CGI artwork where she just looks phenomenal. Studio Series Arcee Transformers up the side. Over here on this side you've got that artwork again. On the back you have your product shots and a little bit of verbiage. So you've got big screen inspired, you've got the Cybertron falls, and then down here you have Arcee loses contact with the capital as the Autobots are overwhelmed by Decepticon forces. Backdrop is included. And then you have all your warnings down here, and you have the sad baby. And on this side, number 85, Arcee, Deluxe class, Bumblebee up top, and then additional information on the bottom. So that's going to do it for the packaging. Let's go ahead and see what came inside that box. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that came inside that box, and we'll start as we always do with your little sheet of warnings and your instruction booklet. And that leaves you with the two items that we have here. Both of those are her pistols, and they are identical. So let's go ahead and bring them in. We're just going to use one for the close-up here. But we'll bring it in and take a look. So it is just a gray molded plastic, no paint on there. Kind of underwhelming, if I'm being completely honest. Not a lot of detail going on. Just dual pistols. So yeah, I mean, they're kind of underwhelming. I don't know, I just don't know any other way to say it. These are not effects compatible, technically speaking. You can make them work, and I'll demonstrate that here. You can just see that they're just off. If they would have extended this inner portion just a little bit more, would have given you a little bit more of a nub, it would have fit just fine. But as it stands right now, you kind of have to push it just a little too far and squeeze it on there so you can see that flex on the effects part, and I'm not going to push it in too far. That's going to be about my limit right there. So you can make effects work, but I don't think they're supposed to, and man, how disappointing. You know, that's if you're going to give us just accessories like this, at least give us the ability to use the blast effects, or the ability to use the blast effects easily and not feel like we're stretching our blast effects out. So that's it for the accessories. That leaves us with just the last remaining item, which is the display base here. And this is the scene from Cybertron, and we've seen this with some of the other Bumblebee figures as well. So again, as I always say, I appreciate that they include these. I don't have the room, so this will be going back in the box. The box will be going in storage. But for those of you who have room, they are a great display option. So all that being said, next step is we'll take a look at Arcee herself and check out her details and articulation. So yeah, as far as the overall look of this figure goes, I think it's pretty good. Let's go ahead and bring her in and take a look at that, and we'll start right up here with that head sculpt. And you know, it's not my favorite face. It's definitely not my favorite Arcee face, but I will say that from what I can tell, it is accurate to the CGI model. So I don't like this face, not because of the figure, but because of the actual model itself. So this is a faithful representation. So from that standpoint, very well done. Just not my favorite looking face. But yeah, I mean, you've got good sculpt work in there. I like that light pink that they used for the face, and then those eyes are really cool. Got a little bit of action going on up here for the crown or the crest. And then she's got those Arcee pink ears. So very cool. And then even looking right up here, just under the head, you've got a decent amount of detail going on in there as well. And then coming down to that chest, nice use of pinks and whites and that silver right here that they painted on. Chest looks pretty good. You got some sculpted detail in the abdomen. And then coming down a little bit more, sorry, my dog is barking in the background. Coming down a little bit more, you've got that crotch, looks pretty good. And then you have these legs Looks pretty good there. Not a lot of hollow areas to speak of, so all nicely filled out, even on the inside of the legs, and good detail. It keeps it interesting. So she looks good from pretty much every angle. Big old pink kneecaps, and then coming down here to those shins look good. Silver tips right there on the bottoms of those legs. And then you have these teeny tiny Arcee toes poking out. And then when you come around to the side, these, I will say, are incredibly helpful for standing her up. These work really well as far as heels go. So I very much do appreciate those. And then coming and looking in here, lots of detail going on in those legs. So a lot of opportunities here, maybe for some additional paint. I think really would have set her off. But for being a deluxe class, as far as the price goes, I can live with it. Coming up under here, taking a look. She fills in pretty nicely. You can kind of get a glimpse of some hollow area up in there, but it's not bad at all. And then taking a look under those arms. Good amount of detail there. Everything looks good. Even down here, this is all a great amount of sculpt work in those arms. And right up under there, you've got a hollow area. This is a transformation tab. And coming up to the front, good detail there. And then making our way to the side, I want to point something out. So this backpack, she does have a traditional Arcee backpack, and that's where the heels really come in. You do get a pretty decent amount of balance there. If I can get her other foot out, there we go. So you can stand her up pretty good, but the backpack can be a little top heavy, so you just got to be careful with the posing there. But the other thing that you can do here, if you choose, is you can flare these out. So with a little bit of imagination, you know, I kind of like the way that looks, and with a little bit of imagination, whether they're flared out or whether you have them in, this backpack becomes a jetpack. And I like that. That works for me. So I not often do I like backpacks on bots, but this being Arcee, number one, I expected it, and number two, this works. I like it. So coming around to the back, even there, doesn't look bad at all. You know, if you open these up, then you start to see a little bit of how the sausage is made, so it's not quite as elegant. They do have some detail on the insides there. But yeah, for the most part, this works really well. She does have that 3mm port for a flight stand right there. And then even from the back, this all turned out looking pretty good. So I really have to say, for a deluxe class in this Bumblebee line, I'm a fan. I like the way she looks. I think they did Arcee justice here. So let's go ahead and jump into the articulation, because you know, she's got the good, she's got the bad. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So as far as that head goes, you can see she's got a pretty good range of looking up, and this doesn't pin in, so you just got to be careful when you're having her looking up. So that's as far as she goes looking up. Looking down, it's pretty considerable, so she can see if she drops some crumbs down her shirt, I suppose. And then you can give her some of that side-to-side quizzical look if you choose to do so. And then you can go around. You just got to be careful because of the funky angle that this is on. So, you know, if you want to do that, go for it. All right, and then as far as the shoulders go, well, I already talked about these. You do have some degrees of articulation there, whatever you want to do. And then here at the shoulders, you can come up that far at the shoulders. You can go all the way around, and you do have bicep rotation. You do have double jointed elbows, so this is really nice. So you can get her completely folded up like that. So you can get some really nice, I'm taking her apart in front of you. You can get some really nice elbow bend there. So very, very, very happy about that. And down here at the wrist, you get wrist tilt. So get that in. Now this is for transformation, but you can use it if you want to do something like that. I really wish that her wrists came out more, because as it stands, when she's holding her guns, if I straighten the arm out here, you can see what I mean. It just feels like it's just in a little too much. So I would have liked to have seen that hand be able to straighten out just a little bit more. All right, and then down here, she does have waist rotation, so do with it what you will. And then down here at the hips, so depending on where you have this plastic, where it's going to run into or not run into things, it kind of varies how far she can do the splits. But if you've got them in the right spot, you can get a full split out of her. Sorry, Arcee, I keep splitting you apart. So you can get a full split out of her like that. So plenty of range of motion as far as the splits go. And then kicking forward, it's kind of the same deal. Just be careful with the plastic where she runs into herself, and then you can get a nice high kick. Really, this will just start to come all the way around right there. So that's kind of your range of motion. But you can definitely get a nice high kick here. Moving forward and in the back even further until she runs into her own backpack. That looks like a ballet pose. So there you go. And then down here at the knees, you get 90 at the knees. And then down here at the feet, as you can see, you do get severe ankle tilt. So quite a bit there. And you can get a little bit of up and down, but it's not a huge range of motion here. So I really, really would have liked to have had the ability to bring those feet up more, because it just feels like sometimes that she's sitting too far back, or she's just kind of leaning back. You know, when you feel like you have her legs straight like that, it just feels like she's leaning back a little bit. I would have loved to have been able to bring those feet forward just a little bit more, or so those heels would be down some more to kind of straighten her out. But that's about the best that you can do in that circumstance right there. So a little bit more range of motion in the feet would have been nice, but for the most part, for a deluxe class figure, the articulation abounds here. If I stop taking her apart, manhandling the poor thing. So anyway, yeah, that is it for details and articulation. Let's go ahead and throw her guns on. I'm not going to do a separate segment for this because there's simply not a lot you can do with these guns, and I'm only going to demonstrate with one because, well, you know, you plug them in her hands, and yeah, there you go. Pow pow. It's pretty much it. But see what I mean when she's holding that pistol? It just feels like, man, I'd like to have that hand swing out just a little bit more. So what you've got to do is kind of straighten that pistol up, because if you put it in the natural position, what I think is the natural position, it looks like that, and I just don't like that. So this might just be me being picky here, but I don't like it. I mean, either way, she can still look at you and say, hands up, mister. So you do have that ability, and then you also do have weapon storage. So I do like the weapon storage on this. It's actually pretty eloquent. So if you don't want her holding her weapons, let's flare these out for a moment and take a look. You have these little areas on the backs here. Let me move this other arm out of the way too. You do have these little areas back here where you can take the weapons and you can plug them in. Sorry about that edit, guys. My dog started barking again. So you have these little areas back here where you can plug these guns in. So you just take that, plug it in right there, and then do the same thing with the other weapon. Come over here and take that, plug it in, just like that. And then you've got some nice weapon storage, so you can push those back, and now she's got her weapons stored. You can see them from the side there, or you could have them flared out like that. Something I haven't tried, but yeah, let's go ahead and try it on camera because nothing ever goes wrong there. Maybe you can plug them in like this. Don't mind me, I'm just over here struggling, wasting your time while you're trying to watch a video about Arcee. Yeah, it's not going to work. Bummer. Okay, that is the only way. This is the way. Oh no, where'd her head go? There it is. Found it. Okay, so there you go. That's what I get for trying to experiment with something on camera and not trying it beforehand. So anyway, oh, she's looking down again. She must have dropped some more chips. All right, so that's it for the accessories. Like I said, they're kind of sort of effects compatible. And, you know, if you wanted, you've got that 3mm port in the back. So if you do want to throw her on a flight stand, you certainly are more than welcome to do so. And there you go. But she really doesn't have any other effects ports. So she's not really blast effect compatible here. You're not going to have a lot of areas to put effects on her. So she kind of is what she is. Thank goodness she looks good because, you know, I do miss the ability to use blast effects, especially rocket boots. Man, would have liked to have had some rocket boots on there. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on before I continue to lament the lack of blast effect compatibility. So what we'll do now is we'll get her in her alt mode and we'll take a look at her from there. All right, guys, here she is in her absolutely stunning Cybertronian alt mode. I am smitten here. For a deluxe class figure, I love this design. I think this is really cool. The colors work, the overall shape works. It kind of stays true to her her motorcycle kind of background, if you will, but also at the same time you see hints of her car mode in there, the Arcee car that we know. So I am just liking this from every angle, and I just think it works. The weakest point on this alt mode for me is going to be in the back, kind of swinging around the toward the camera right here, so you can see her two guns. Well, these are her hands hanging out right there, so all they've done is kind of tuck her hands away. But per the instructions, you put the guns on there, and they do a pretty good job of hiding those hands, and they can look like exhaust, they could look like rear guns, really up to you. This little area right here kind of looks like an area where maybe a target master could sit, kind of like being a rear tail gunner. If somebody's chasing her, right, they could sit up here, and then they're using these guns back here. But yeah, this all just comes together and looks so freaking cool. I really like this. So, you know, for a deluxe class figure, what they've done here, I can very much appreciate it. And let's go ahead and take a look at her underneath real quick. You can see, you know, she yogas up pretty well, and you can get a little bit of a little hint of her head there, but her face is covered up. I mean, even if you were to open it up right here, you know, you're not going to see her face. So that's all hidden really well. So yeah, I like this quite a bit. I think this is a really maybe second to Brawn, my favorite Cybertronian alt mode so far from the Bumblebee movie as far as Studio Series figures go. She just looks really good. So let's go ahead and now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into those comparisons, and we'll see how she stacks up to some other figures out there. So for our first alt mode comparison, I figured for G1 representation I would bring in my Power Glide, since he hasn't gotten a whole lot of love on camera, and I figured I would give him a little bit of camera time here. So there she is next to the G1 Power Glide. Moving on to our next comparison, this is the Transformers War for Cybertron. It could be Earthrise, it could be Kingdom, doesn't matter because they're the same thing, but this is the Arcee that we got with that Transformers line. Now we'll bring in a couple of representatives from the Studio Series Bumblebee movie line. So this is the Studio Series Cliff Jumper from that Bumblebee movie. Next up is the Studio Series Wheeljack from the Bumblebee movie. And for that final alt mode comparison, this is the Studio Series Thrust that we saw from that Bumblebee movie. That's it for the alt mode comparisons, so let's go ahead and get her back into her bot mode and do some comparisons there. For that first robot mode comparison, here we see her next to my G1 Power Glide. Next up is Arcee, as we saw her in the Transformers War for Cybertron line. This is the Earthrise or Kingdom version. They're both exactly the same, so I'll leave that up to you to decide which one it is. Just because, why not? Let's go ahead and bring in the Transformers Legacy Arcee. Moving right along to our next comparison, this is the Transformers Studio Series Cliff Jumper, as we saw him from the Bumblebee movie. Next up is Studio Series Wheeljack, as we saw him from that 2018 Bumblebee movie. And last but not least, here we see Arcee next to the Studio Series Thrust, as we saw him from that 2018 Bumblebee movie. That'll do it for the comparisons, so I get the feeling we need to get into those final thoughts before Arcee gets a little trigger happy. Yeah, I'm just going to say it. I like this figure a lot more than what I was expecting to. You know, unfortunately, it seems like lately the Studio Series, particularly with the Bumblebee movie Studio Series line, it feels like it's more misses than hits. You know, I'm happy to say that at least this time, I think they got something right. This is an Arcee worth picking up. But let's go ahead and jump into it a little bit, and we'll start with the overall aesthetic. Man, she's got it. For a deluxe class Studio Series figure, she just looks really cool in both modes from every angle. I'm not even sure which mode I like better yet. I don't know if it's the robot or if it's the alt mode. I just really like them both. Really, the only thing that I could say from an aesthetic standpoint, an overall look standpoint here is, you know, a little bit of more paint would have gone a long way. But as she stands right now for that deluxe class price point, man, she looks good. I'm giving her a 9 out of 10. I just can't stop staring at this figure. I think she looks good from every angle in both modes. So 9 out of 10 there. Moving on to the articulation. She is really strong in a lot of areas as far as articulation goes. There's a couple of areas where she needs a little bit more, though, particularly in those feet. Just having that ability to bring those toes up or down a little bit more would have gone a long ways to really help balance this figure out and give her the ability to pull off some incredible dynamic poses. As it stands right now, she's got decent stability and a good center of gravity, and if you can get her arranged correctly, you can still get her in some cool poses. As I've stated before, I am by no means a master when it comes to posing figures, so I'm sure some of you out there can do a way better job than I can, but I absolutely love posing this figure, even with those feet. The other thing would have been, I would have liked to have been able to swivel those hands out a little bit more. As it stands right now, they just feel like they're in too much, and it's kind of awkward. To me, it kind of looks and feels awkward seeing the way she holds those pistols. So articulation overall is great on this figure. I'm going to give her an 8 out of 10. Moving on to accessories. They're lame. I don't know any other way to say it. It's cool that she's got two guns, but I wish they would have been better than what we got. You know, throw some paint on them. Throw some more sculpt work on there. Give her something better. This figure deserves something more than the accessories that she was given. And double down on that with the fact that they are not truly blast effects compatible. You know, you can force some blast effects on there, but they are not naturally blast effects compatible. It just feels like the accessories on this figure were an afterthought. And I'm scoring a little high this time around, but I swear to you, if they reissue this figure as an Elita 1 or a Chromia or something like that, and they have the same guns, I'm going to absolutely skewer Hasbro for giving us more lame accessories. So as it stands right now, I'm giving her a 7 out of 10, simply for the fact that we've never seen these guns before. We've never seen this mold before. So fingers crossed that they don't do this to us again. So 7 out of 10 on accessories. Moving on to overall quality. I have no complaints here. You know, she came with everything she was supposed to. The sculpt work looks great. The paint applications look good. Nothing is loose. Everything works as it should, so no complaints. My biggest concern is just going to be over time in those areas where they've used ball joints, particularly back here for these two areas of the backpack slash jetpack. They use the ball joints there. I just don't know if they're going to hold up over time. So overall quality is good, and you know, bummer for me, my box had a rip in it. So I'm going to give her a 9 out of 10 for quality. And that takes us to our last bullet, which is overall value. So I'm going to spare you the very long story here and tell you that I did find her in a Target in North America a lot sooner than what I was expecting to see them on the shelves. So I was genuinely very surprised when I found her. And when I took her up to the register, she rang up at $18.98. So rounding up a couple of cents, I picked this up at a Target in North America for $19 US. I think for what you get here, that is a phenomenal value. This is a great figure. This is one that I did not feel the pain. Once I opened her up and started playing with her, I think she's worth every cent. So value on this figure, I'm giving her a 9 out of 10. So that brings us to a grand total out of a possible 50 points. The Studio Series Arcee gets 42 out of 50, which puts her at an 84%. And I'm going to easily recommend this figure. That percentage, that 84%, is actually dragged down by these lame pistols. But if you throw some other guns in her hands, something that's blast effect compatible, you are just going to have fun all day with this figure. So with that, that is going to wrap up the review. I hope you guys got some good information out of this. I hope you were entertained, and if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that like button, be sure to subscribe, and leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think about this figure or the channel or life in general for that matter. So until we see you guys in the next one, take care.